We all had games we were looking forward to in 2021, and some of them didn't live up to expectations. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, the 10 most disappointing games of 2021. Starting off with number 10, it's Battlefield 2042. So every new Battlefield game, it seems like people fondly remember the previous one, mostly because work has been done to bring it up to par, and are disappointed in the new one. This one, no different. But for all intents and purposes, there's a big problem here. Even though we were doing kind of a more modern warfare type game, and it was something that we hadn't dealt with in Battlefield for a while. For whatever reason, no destructible environments, probably the most cluttered experiences I can remember. In-game voice chat, nope, despite the fact that it's an online-only multiplayer game. But like, above and beyond all of that are the bugs. And not just like minor bugs, ridiculous bugs. At launch, it was just so riddled with bugs that it's pointless to even try to list it. But we cannot move on from here without talking about the wall riding hovercrafts. We've talked about this in other videos, but that is ridiculous. It is something that should have never made it into the final game. Something that DICE was aware of and could have spent the time fixing. It's such an obvious, glaring, and game-changing bug that it's absolutely baffling it has been present for any amount of time in a publicly released game. And while it is possible that over time this stuff will all get better, I mean, it's even right now a little bit better than it was at launch, there's a long way to go. At number 9 is Doom 3 VR Edition. Now, Doom 3 is a somewhat controversial game, but for all intents and purposes, the controversy I think is more, is it a game in the style of Doom? Is it a Doom game? Not, is it a good game? Because it is a good game. It does retain some very obvious Doom elements, the fast-paced combat, etc., and that is the primary issue of Doom 3 VR Edition. If you have ever played a first-person shooter in VR, you know that it has to be a little bit more and a little bit less than a first-person shooter. Not a literal, exactly the same experience as any other platform first-person shooter, and that's what you get here. You get Doom 3, completely unchanged, made for a keyboard and mouse Doom 3. A lot of the types of movement that you are encouraged, and in many cases later in the game required to do, just doesn't work in VR. And not to knock the PSVR, but it is one of the more limited headsets at this point in time. That doesn't help either. And number 8 is Nerf Legends. It's a Nerf shooter. And given that it's a Nerf shooter, it's not going to be like intense Call of Duty AAA action. But between repetitive combat and an abundance of puzzles that require platforming that is not great, putting it in the nicest way possible here. I mean, it's a game that can be entertaining for a little while. I'm not going to say that like you can't get any fun out of it, but I was really disappointed because you're doing like repetitive, pretty basic combat without a lot of variety between guns, and you're only fighting like, I think I counted 6 different enemies. There's a lot of bugs. My character got stuck a lot. And I mean, you could go on for a long time about why the campaign isn't great. But in terms of multiplayer, it's also not great. Playing on PS5, I've had trouble, even just finding matches. I don't know. I tapped out of this one after not a long period of time. And we haven't even really talked about it. It was one of those games where it was like, is it really worth talking about a lot? And looking back on the game, this could have been something that was a lot of fun. And that means it's a disappointment. And number 7 is Balan Wonderworld, which, I mean, it's really interesting, this one. If it kind of reminds you of a weird-looking Knights, there's a reason for that. Yuji Naka was the director on this one, and it really has like a whole Knights into Dreams thing going for it, at least visually speaking. The gameplay is not particularly similar. It's kind of more oriented towards like a kind of sandbox type of play, but not really what I would normally call that. There's like a bunch of different costumes that you can put on as the characters in the game, and when you put on these different costumes, which are all over the levels, you get different abilities. You use these different abilities to solve the problems in the levels, and then you fight a boss at the end of the chapter. Structurally, it's kind of like if there was a bunch of different knights in a single level of a knight's game, and all of the knights did different things. They didn't just go along a course and do aerial flying stunts on a 2D but 3D also plane. And the problem is that the idea just doesn't work. Probably the thing that defines both Sonic and Knights, Naka's probably previous most big hits, are momentum, and this game just has no understanding of momentum. And you could make the excuse that it's a puzzle platformer, but it's definitely not a good puzzle platformer, let's just say. Too many ways to sort of fake your way through it. I don't know, I played this one because I am a big fan of Yuji Naka, and it didn't work. It is probably one of the slowest, least momentum building platformers out there, which is just like the exact opposite for Yuji Naka. And I don't know, maybe he was trying to go for that, but like milk on a hot day, it was a bad choice. And number 6 is Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood, which was one of these games that just like sounded really different when it was announced back in 2019. It's just something that, I mean, it looks like a tactical shooter or something for a second based on the aesthetic of the main character. And then you find out he's an eco-terrorist werewolf. And then you're like, what is even going on here? It's just really intriguing in terms of a lot of different choices. It's also an attempt to deal with like problems in the world like pollution and greed with an absolute rampage, which sounds great. It's not great though. So this one isn't what I would call bad. I kind of feel like there were elements of this game that really could have worked if they were focused on, particularly the stealth, which wasn't like amazing or anything, but it's something that a good game could have come out of if it was really developed to its logical conclusion. It was not. And while there was promise there, the combat, it did not have the kind of potential that the stealth had, in my opinion anyways. And the story kind of necessitates a lot of combat. Like, remember I said this story actually sounds cool based on the idea of dealing with the folly of man through a rampage. So you're really doing a repetitive so-so action and continually having to fight stuff. And like different strokes for different folks. I'm sure there are people out there that like the combat, but I don't think there's anybody out there that would just outwardly say, oh yeah, they didn't have to do more in developing any of the systems in this game, whether it be combat or stealth. And number 5 is Harvest Moon One World, and what sounds like a borderline interesting development in the Harvest Moon formula isn't. Like, I could describe to you the ideas underlying here, and you might go, well, that sounds like they're trying to move forward with this franchise, and you almost are tricked into thinking that's what's going to happen when you're handed over this sort of portable farm thing and told you're going to have to explore an entire world with different climates and blah, blah, blah. Different climates don't matter if the world's just like barren and empty. And that's what you're dealing with here. Everyone and everything in this game is generic as hell. And I've seen some people a little kinder to the named characters saying, at least they had tried. No, I don't think they tried. They had an artist who was clearly able to draw different characters. But beyond that, and the fact that they have different names, this is a sad Harvest Moon game. And to some extent, like, I think since Stardew Valley came out, the Harvest Moon developers kind of don't know what to do because they perfected that. There's not really a lot you could add to Stardew Valley that would make it a better Harvest Moon game. And that leaves them trying to find some new things without apparently the resources to take them to an actually good place. I guess. I don't know. Maybe they're lazy. And number 4 is Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy Definitive Edition. Now, I want to just really take care here. I don't want to take a big dump on this. The game is already in way better shape than it was at launch, but the feeling I had when it first started raining in Grand Theft Auto 3, which is what I booted up first, because if I'm completely honest, that's where I have the most nostalgia from that series, I was not happy. And then the continual bugs, weird visual stuff like the number thing on the jerseys in San Andreas, bizarre looking character models sometimes. times, this stuff all felt like, what did you do to my games? Now, they've obviously shown they're committed to fixing this, so the disappointment has subsided a little bit, but I just really want to talk about how really god-awful this felt when it came out, because these are classic games. In terms of like the real 3D era of gaming, these are some of the definitive games. So the definitive edition sucking in a lot of areas kind of felt like defacing some of the most important games in the last several decades. Again, that's not to say they aren't getting better, and it's not to say that the games themselves are bad, but I have a feeling a lot of people who played the originals are in the same boat I am on this. I look forward to when they are in their definitive form. And number 3 is Big Rumble Boxing Creed Champions, which is this seemingly valiant effort to bring back the arcade boxing game. And for all intents and purposes, that's something I would like to see happen. Those old arcade boxing games were just fantastic. And if you're just looking at the footage of Big Rumble Boxing Creed Champions, it almost seems like it could be that. It's not, though. Like, it's strange even. It's very limited. Boxing's very repetitive. Not a lot going on. Story stuff plays out in text boxes. And the stories really aren't that well done. Considering how repetitive the gameplay can get, you would think that there would be something done to sort of break that up, but it really doesn't do the trick. It sucks because this is kind of like the follow-up to a VR game based with a lot of the same stuff that is actually a lot better. And also, like I said, this is a genre that I would love to see properly revived. It's not that. And number 2 is the Ninja Gaiden Master Collection, and first off, Ninja Gaiden Black, the definitive version of Ninja Gaiden, the first one out of the trilogy here. It's also still available to purchase on the Xbox, and you can use it with backwards compatibility, and it's way cheaper than the Master Collection. And it's also the only, like, of the 3 games that is genuinely just like dynamite the whole way through. They get progressively worse as the trilogy goes on. That is just an inherent fact in this trilogy of games. They could make all 3 of them look incredible and it wouldn't matter. That's still the truth unless they completely redesigned the second and third. And while it would be nice to have a collection of these games that has Ninja Gaiden Black and maybe some graphical and quality of life improvements across all 3 titles, this isn't that, which is often the source of disappointment for gamers when something could be something and it isn't. And finally at number 1, EFootball 2022, which was Pro Evolution Soccer, and Konami decided to Konami it all up. We're going to call this game EFootball, and we are going to make it a disaster. Huge lack of content, almost nothing to do. Controls that honestly operate ridiculously. I don't know how they thought this was a successor to Pro Evolution Soccer, but most noticeably, the graphics are friggin' terrible. This game looks like a joke. And with all of these many issues, it comes together to such a point where Konami actually had to apologize for it. They claim they're going to fix it. They released a patch back in November. They're going to release a patch that moves the game to what they're going to call 1.0. Oh God, it's so bad. Given it's the first game with a new IP, I would just move back to Pro Evolution Soccer if I were them. Couple of bonus disappointments. FIFA 22 Legacy Edition on the Switch, which is again just the same FIFA game multiple years in a row. Now it's 2022. They changed the roster. That's it. And Call of Duty Vanguard Zombies mode, which normally Zombies is the mode they can't screw up. So A, they're following the season model of distributing content, and B, they're not distributing a lot of content throughout season 1. There's just not a lot going on in it, and that sucks because there's not enough there already. But that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. Click subscribe, enable all notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.